Well, you're watching this special edition of What's Up. The Right to Information Act came into force in 2005 and over the last decade has helped millions of citizens demand accountability from the government. It was used to unearth details of mega scams under the UPA government, from the CWG to the coal allotment scam. And as the RTI Act turns 10, we ask, will it survive and stay relevant? To answer those questions, we have with us social activist Aruna Roy, the force behind the RTI. Also joining me is Gopal Krishna Gandhi, the former governor of West Bengal. Ms. Roy and Mr. Gandhi, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. Ms. Roy, if I can start by asking you, and I was looking at the column written by Satyananda Mishra, the former CIC, on why he believes that the RTI may in fact lose its relevance. He lists out a bunch of things, and I want to get your opinion on whether you believe the Right to Information Act will stay relevant or not. He says long pendency in most information commissions, the absence of enforcement provisions in the law being too ambitious and unrealistically drafted, most public authorities failing to digitize records even. Do all of those things seem like reasons why the right to information instrument, the legislation itself, is perhaps not going to be very relevant going forward?
I think it depends on where you sit and what you see. I see 8 million Indians now getting the right to question the state, the government, their departments, what they interface with, to question corruption, to question arbitrary use of power, to get their rations, to get medicines. And it's a phenomenal change from what I saw 25 years ago in rural India, amongst the poor in urban India, even ordinary citizens. So I think there are always problems, and any enactment, any legislation will bring forward a huge horde of problems, and in this case we are really asking for a share of power from the system. So the system is going to react, and these are reactions of the system that Satyananda Mishra ji has defined, and those will have to be fought, they'll have to be changed. 15, 20 years ago, no one thought we'd get the right to information, and we got it. And the UPA government and the first phase of the UPA government and the National Advisory Council and the chairperson, Sonia Gandhi, were all politicians, but they pushed the RTI through. No, of course, 11 months later they asked for an amendment. But the fact remains that they pushed it through. So it depends on people whether we can really make the political establishment see it our way, whether we can make bureaucracy work. I'm not at all pessimistic.
Would you share that optimism, Mr. Gandhi? Because if I look at the CIC annual report findings of 2013-2014, let's just take a look at the rejection rates. At the PMO, 20.5%, Rashtrapati Bhavan almost 11%, Supreme Court almost 24%, CAG 7%, the Ministry of Corporate Affairs about 29%, the Power Ministry 16%. I could go on. What gives you the optimism, if at all you share Aruna Roy's optimism about the RTI remaining meaningful and relevant going forward?
The right to information will be as strong and as irreversible as the right to vote. The percentage of voters that turn out at elections is not as good as it can be or as it should be. That does not mean that the right to vote has become irrelevant. The right to information is a twin to the right to vote. It is an ingredient of our democracy and an essential part of our republic. It can only grow stronger and stronger. There will be disappointments with the nature and the pace of official responses, but there can be no going back. The RTI Act is here to stay.
The RTI Act is here to stay, but let's talk about the road ahead and how do we make this Act much more robust when we talk about implementation and effective implementation. If I were to ask you, Mr. Gandhi, what is it that you would like to see now for effective implementation and use of the Right to Information Act?
The most important thing would be for the RTI movement to retain its character as a movement and as a catalyst for further and further deepening and intensification of the provisions of the Act. And one of the things that need to be done very, very quickly is the follow-up on the appointment of the Lokpal, which has been languishing for a very, very long time and completely inexcusably, and the activation of the Whistleblowers Act and the Grievance Redressal Act. These are essential corollaries of the RTI Act, and the movement must continue to ask for it, and so should the media in the country and all concerned citizens.
Ms. Roy, if I could put to you one of the other comments that came in from Satyananda Mishra, and he said that he worries about the lack of civil society enthusiasm for the RTI. He believes that civil society enthusiasm has declined, that activists like yourself perhaps or others have moved on to other spheres, looking out for other interests, so to speak. Do you believe that this movement that Mr. Gandhi was talking about, how do we keep that movement alive?
The movement is alive. We are not seen on television because we are not a priority. The print media doesn't report us because we are not a priority, because you have fashions. You have times when you think something is fashionable, we are there. We don't think it's fashionable, we are not there. And we are not in Delhi. We are spread out all over the country in small villages. Every day people are questioning authority. If those 8 million applications are put in every year, there's somebody or the other every so many kilometers is questioning authority. If this is not keeping the movement alive, I don't know what is. And it's an act which is being used, and it's asking questions and demanding answers in so many multiple ways. And I think we must stop thinking of the RTI as of itself. It is a transformatory act. It makes other acts perform. It makes other people deliver. It makes other departments. Departments might be the environment. It might be education. We recently have a huge program in Rajasthan where we are visiting every single government school called Shiksha Ka Sawal, which the Rajasthan Patrika is covering, where we are going to every single government school with students to look at basic right to education facilities. Right to information has to be applied to something else. And if that is done, it will deliver. And I think all of us are working, but we don't necessarily congregate in Jantar Mantar or outside Parliament. We work at several places in this country, and we do, believe me.
Well, you can't accuse us not of having you on television, Ms. Roy and Ms. Gandhi, but Ms. Roy, let me ask you, what is the expectation from the political dispensation today? This was an act that was brought in when the UPA was in power. What is the expectation from the NDA and from the current political dispensation as far as providing more teeth and more robustness to the act?
Is that a question to me or to Ms. Roy?
Yes, to Ms. Roy, and then I'll get the final word from you, Mr. Gandhi.
Well, I think this present government appears far more, appears to have far more integrity because it does not consult. It is an opaque government. It does not consult with people on any issue. It's very difficult to see ministers. It's very difficult to get into secretariats and governments. So I don't necessarily see it as an improvement of the UPA. And I think the Prime Minister is not willing to entertain visitors. He's not willing to enter into dialogue with them. He tweets. A tweet and a Twitter or whatever you call it is good enough if you want to make an impression or sell something immediately. But if you want to form a law, or if you want to understand why things are going wrong or right, you need to talk to people. And all this attack on rights-based legislations that this government started with has ended nowhere. We have the MGNREG as it was. We have the Land Acquisition Act where it was. Because if these laws are made in consultation with people, no matter which government comes to power, people don't want the changes.
All right, I'll give you the final say, Mr. Gandhi.
My final say on the subject of RTI is that RTI is not just an act. It is a civilizational, transformational provision which has flown, in fact, directly from the Constitution of India, though after a lapse of several years. The Constitution of India and the RTI Act are twins, just as the People's Representation Act and the RTI Act are. So on that tripod, the Constitution, the Representation of People's Act and the RTI Act, the democracy and the republic that India is are on sure ground.
Well, for the sake of our democracy, as you said, we do hope that the RTI Act stays relevant and in fact becomes even more robust. Aruna Roy, Gopal Gandhi, appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18 with your thoughts and for weighing in on this issue as the RTI turns 10.